The Atomos Shinobi II managed to make a lot of people disappointed, and it's probably gonna go on my list over things that I actually regret buying. After 5 months out on the market, there's still a ton of bugs and annoyances on this little monitor. Now, with that said, there are a couple of good things to say about this product. I think it can be a viable option for some videographers. The Atomos Shinobi II is a 10-bit 5.2-inch monitor with a screen brightness of 1500 nits. It offers slightly higher than average pixel density at 423 ppi. There's no active cooling, no internal fans, which I know is a concern for some users. But the reason for me picking up the Shinobi II was because of the camera control and touch focus, which sadly turned out to be pretty unusable, at least at an early stage. The latest firmware released in December 2024 has improved the touch focus and added support for more cameras. I will add a link below to this list, as I'm sure Atomos will continue to add more cameras down the line. So with this new firmware, I finally have touch and even autofocus tracking on my FX30, which we're shooting on now. So thank you so much, Atomos. But my A7iv still only works in spot AF. The Fujifilm X-T4, which is another camera that I own, was also added in this new firmware update. I haven't been able to trigger the camera from the monitor, even if it seems to be recognizing the Fujifilm X-T4. I've tried all the tethering and remote options on the Fujifilm X-T4, but I still haven't been able to do anything with the monitor except monitoring and, waste some battery. There's also a couple of features that have either stopped working or completely disappeared with this and other firmware updates in the past. And we'll get to that in our next segment here. So let's talk about some of the onboard features on the Shinobi II. The EL zone system is probably the most noteworthy, apart from the camera control and the touch focus, obviously. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the EL zone system, it's basically like a false color overlay based on stops instead of IRE values. A lot of people, including me, prefer this over the standard or even airy style false colors, as stops of lights are usually a bit more relatable for us mortals. However, after updating the firmware with this latest one, the EL zone system is no longer available, and the airy style false color option is also gone. I did manage to get it back once after doing a factory reset, but that only worked then. The next time when I came back and powered up the monitor, the options were just gone again, and I've done 10-15 factory resets, and I still have the SD card here to see if I could trigger another re-update of the firmware, that sort of stuff, to see if that would be a way to get those features back. So this is just one little example of the type of bugs and annoyances that you might run into if you're using the Shinobi II. And while you definitely have a great selection of other tools such as crop guides and zebras, which, by the way, you can only adjust in 5% increments. That's kind of weird, and I know that's been reported ever since the release of the Atomos Shinobi II, but it's still in 5% increments. The next topic I want to touch on is anamorphic support on the Shinobi II, and this here is kind of important information to a lot of you out there who are shooting anamorphic or considering getting anamorphic lenses or even Cine lenses with manual focus and that sort of stuff. If we start with anamorphic lenses, the Atomos Shinobi II offers anamorphic D-squeeze options for a lot of different squeeze factors. I would put them up here on the screen, but we are dealing with a pretty teeny tiny 5.2-inch screen, which when you de-stretch your footage on the monitor itself, you will be looking at something pretty much the size of these two NPF 100Z batteries. That's about the size of the image that you're gonna have to rack focus on, check your framing, make sure you're leveled and all that fun stuff, which doesn't make shooting with anamorphic lenses or even manual focus spherical lenses super duper easy. So in my opinion, the Shinobi II for anamorphic shooters or manual focus shooters in general isn't a great option. I do have a couple of suggestions in this video here, which I will either link down below or at the end screen of this video. Now, let's circle back to build quality, because I want to give Atomos some praise here, because the build quality of this thing here, not just the quality of the screen itself, but the actual finish, the choice of materials, the thickness of everything is just great. It's truly a premium product. And I don't know if you can see this from here, but it is super duper thin, which, because of its tininess, we are missing out on some in and out options. We don't get any physical buttons except for the little on and off switch, which sits here. It would have been nice to have at least 2 or 3 function buttons up here that we have on pretty much every affordable monitor these days. On the monitor, we have our HDMI in, but no HDMI out, which can be an issue if you want to be able to run a feed from the monitor to a capture card for live streaming or for screen recordings, what have you. The Shinobi II also uses HDMI 1.4, which is pretty standard, pretty typical, and it will be able to handle signals of up to 4K 30 frames per second in both 16:9 and DCI. We've got a LANC connector and a little headphone jack here on the side, by the way. We also have one single mounting point here at the bottom. The camera control and the touch focus works over a USB-C connection between the camera and the monitor. And I'm not an absolute fan of this solution. Let me explain. So the good thing is your camera will also receive power over the USB-C connection. But the bad thing is whatever battery you plug into the monitor, big or small, will be powering both the monitor and the camera. So if you want to be able to use lighter and smaller batteries like this 550 right here, it's gonna drain that battery so much quicker. Obviously, this isn't a huge deal if you're using bigger batteries like V-mount batteries and you get one of these D-Tap to NPF dummy batteries, since the Atomos II don't have a regular DC barrel connector either, which would have made our lives a lot simpler and a lot more affordable. Just get a D-Tap to DC instead of one of these more expensive dummy battery contraptions. You could obviously power the monitor over USB-C power delivery as well, but chances are if you bought this for the camera control, the touch focus, the USB-C port will be occupied and connected to your camera, so that's not going to be an option. So once again, I'm not a huge fan of this type of connection or this solution. There are other brands and other monitors that, in my opinion, does this better. So how do we summarize all this information? Well, first of all, I just want to say that I would like to hear from you guys. I'm sure there's a lot of you that will agree with me and have more things to add in terms of bugs or other annoyances, while others might have a completely different perspective. Maybe you absolutely love your Shinobi II, and I would like to hear from all of you, and I'm sure all the people out there who are considering the Shinobi II would be super appreciative over having all of your input down below in the comment section. So make sure to share your thoughts on the Shinobi II downstairs, and I will even leave my final thoughts on the Shinobi II down in the description or the comments as well. So thank you so much. If you made it this far, then you're probably as nerdy about cameras, monitors, and camera gear as I am. So maybe you want to hang out again sometime. In that case, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next week. Bye!